Welcome to Gen Z Hoops, the Gen Z basketball, coaching, and sports business show.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Gen Z Hoops podcast. Today, I'm joined by the head video coordinator of the Wisconsin Herd, Mr. Keegan Brown. Coach Brown, how you doing today, sir?
Doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Fourth interview of the day. Just keep it rolling, and great guest such as yourself joining me today. So thank you so much again.
Yeah, no problem.
So I like to kick off our little discussion here. Can you talk a little bit about your connection to the game of basketball?
Yeah, I think kind of one of my first connections with basketball. I grew up in Southern California, and so I was like a lot of people growing up, just watching Kobe Bryant right in my backyard. I'd be able to go to a couple Laker games when I was younger, and just seeing his dedication to his craft and all the amazing moments over the years. Kind of watching him in Southern California and being able to see his impact on the community down there and the fan base and everything. It was super special. So that's kind of been one of my first moments with like kind of where basketball really impacted me. Me and my dad going to Laker games, all that kind of stuff, and just seeing him just kind of ball out.
Was Kobe a player who you wanted to model your game after at a young age? Like in the park, like in the backyard or something like
Oh
that?
yeah. Oh yeah. Mainly on the little hoops that you put on the back of your bedroom door, because then I actually could actually recreate some stuff that he would be able to do. Unfortunately, wasn't blessed with the athleticism and skill that he possessed, but yeah, for sure.
A guy who I tried to model my game after at a young age was LeBron. Like I was coming up during that time of when the Heatles were in town. You know what I mean? LeBron and the Heat. My first memory actually was when LeBron stole the ball at MSG against the Knicks. They were on that big win streak, cocked it back, threw it down. The MSG crowd went wild. So I can agree with you on that one. I tried that on my little bedroom door hoop as well. So at what point did you know that you wanted to pursue a career in sports?
Yeah, I think it was really kind of halfway through my undergrad. I had a good conversation with my dad, who I was trying to get some advice of kind of trying to figure out what I want to do with my career. He gave me some great advice in terms of he really told me he regretted that he never first at least tried to pursue something that I was passionate in. He ended up being like a corporate accountant, but he always would have liked to at least try to go do something in sports or entertainment, movies, something like that. And so me and him, like we traveled to lots of sports games throughout my when I was a kid, watched sports together, all the nine yards and everything. And so that's when I was like really wanted to see if the sports industry was something that I could kind of crack into as something I was super passionate about, and was a big part of kind of my identity growing up.
I've actually had a lot of mentors as well that told me at a young age, like, don't just do something for the money, do something you're actually passionate about. Again, I was pretty naive to like, it didn't really process. I think you can agree with me on that one. Like, you're thinking you're young, you're naive, you're like, yeah, like, I'm just gonna do it for the money. I want to get rich. But now you're coming up at that point, like, I'm in college. And of course, when you were my age too, you can kind of
Yeah.
see the value in things. So I can agree on that note as well. So you attended the University of Central Florida where you were in the Master of Business, where you had a Master of Sports Business Management and you were in the DeVos Sports Business Management program. At this point in your life, what were your goals and ambitions?
Yeah, so when I was there at UCF in that program, I knew that I wanted to do kind of basketball for my career in the industry, and so for me, it was just continue my education. I always knew I wanted to get a graduate degree, and so once I found this program, I was able to get my MBA and my Master in Sports Business at the same time, which was a huge plus for me. But also just be able to be exposed to a bunch of really interesting people in the sports industry, connect with them through the program, take experience some unique experiences within the program. We went to DC and visited a bunch of different teams and Under Armour National headquarters, stuff like that.
Wow.
We were able to go down to New Orleans and help with rebuilding homes from like the hurricanes, things like that. So it was a super special program with 30 plus students that were kind of in my cohort. That were have a lot of good friends from that place, and from there it was just trying to continue just to get as much kind of basketball experience as I could. A lot of freelance stuff in my own time, connecting, networking with people in the Orlando area from the Magic organization, things like that. But it was really just kind of a good place to start building my foundation for my career.
You mentioned, I know doesn't really have to do with basketball or anything like that, but it kind of like stuck out to me a lot with what you just said. Can you talk a little bit about, explain more about kind of rebuilding those communities from the hurricane in New Orleans?
Yeah, so luckily the director of my program was Dr. Richard Lapchick, and he's been a guy who's used sports for social justice in his entire career. He's uh, one of the biggest people in terms of being able to use sport for social justice. He has a ton of experience with during the South Africa and the apartheid. He's good friends with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and his social work, and he's just everyone kind of knows him for equality, diversity, inclusion in sports. And so he founded this program, and one of the biggest things was when they first started was the Hurricane Katrina happened down there and devastated that community, and so he used that as a an event to be able to have a pillar of the program and be about service and being able to go down every year with a new cohort to help just do service, help rebuild a community, be able to learn from people's stories about how they persevered and endured that tragedy, as well as just being able to just see how much impact you can have in this world by just doing even little things like just going down and donating a couple days of your time just to help some unfortunate people that experienced some hardship. So it was really cool.
Yeah, that stuck out to me actually. That stood out to me a lot actually because I've still play college. I play college basketball right now, and our coach, since we're on winter break, we're just up here with like nothing else to do but just play basketball and lift. You know how it goes, I bet.
Yep.
But yeah, he always makes us do community service. Like last week, we made meals and served them to like a bunch of like a lot of homeless people at the local church. It's kind of like made us feel like, something bigger than ourselves. Like we're not so focused on me, but like myself or like us as individuals, but like we as a unit came together and like gave back to the community. And the community actually comes to like all our games as well and always shows us that love and support. So that's why that part about building back the community after the hurricane really stood out to me.
That's
So
awesome.
so post college, you became a sports marketing intern at BYU. What was your mindset at this point in your career, and what were you trying to learn most from this position?
Yeah, so when I was at my undergrad at BYU, that was kind of one of the first positions where I just wanted to kind of break into sports, finding a little some just get as much any kind of experience in sports. And so that sports marketing internship with BYU was a really great experience. It kind of set off a domino effect with um, getting my a job my senior year of undergrad with the Salt Lake City Stars, and then that kind of dominoed into a summer internship later with the Charlotte Hornets. But I mean, at BYU, honestly, I was first rejected for the position when I applied for it, and I kind of went back and trying to kind of plead my case that this is something I really want to do, and thankful for the person who hired me to give me that chance to be able to participate. And it was a really fun experience to be exposed to kind of the sports marketing side of things that continued to kind of fuel my passion for working in the industry.
So you mentioned working for the Salt Lake City Stars, and you were the actually in 20 you actually got this job as the director of game operations. So how did this opportunity come about, and like what was your experience working in Salt Lake City?
Yeah, so the Jazz, their G League team was the Idaho Stampede, and then they relocated it closer to in Salt Lake, so it'd just be close to the Jazz,
Mhm.
and and so um, And so basically through kind of my BYU sports marketing internship, I was helping a little bit with BYU basketball and their game ops. And so that was able to kind of help me get my foot in the door when they were hiring for a whole new staff there in Salt Lake with the Stars. Was lucky to be able to get it, and it was kind of my first experience with kind of the G League and how it all worked. It was a very crazy year since it was their first year in that facility, it was the first year being there, and so a lot of stuff went wrong. A lot of fires had to be put out. Every almost seemed
Wow.
like every single night. There wasn't a lot of help, and I was trying to also learn on the fly in that job. But it just kind of taught me just kind of the importance of trying to be as prepared as possible, but then being able to work and think quick on your feet to kind of try to make the game day experiences as best possible for the few fans that came to our games that year.
And then also going on the next year, you actually worked for a different organization, a little ways on the other coast of the country, the Charlotte Hornets, where you became an event, presentation, and game operations intern for them. So what was it like balancing different aspects, different roles? So you were director of game operations. Now you add in event presentation into that. How were you able to balance both roles? And also ultimately, what was it like working for two different organizations?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, being able to have that sports marketing internship with BYU and then being the director of game ops for Stars allowed me to have the experience necessary to get that summer internship with the Hornets. And it was a super fun summer. Me and my wife really enjoyed living in Charlotte that year as we were transitioning from Utah to down to Florida for my grad school. And yeah, it was really cool just to see having experienced kind of the in-season version of being a game operations, and then going into the summer and seeing what all that entailed. And another big thing with that was it allowed me to connect with a lot of good people within the Hornets front office on the basketball ops side that I still have some good connections with, like David Duquette. I was able to talk with him, and we still see each other almost every year at summer league or at different events. And he's someone I get some good advice from as I continue through my career, and so just taking advantage of kind of that opportunity to not only do the work and get experience, but being able to connect and network was super big for me.
What was it like to watch Cardiac Kemba that year?
No, it was really cool. It was really awesome just to kind of see what Kemba Walker meant to that city when he was there, and all the different things that they did to leverage him within the community and the fan base, and to drive that community engagement. It was really cool.
That was when they had that sick court, like the honeycomb type court. I remember that court was sick. I remember. I always used to like pick that for my team court in 2K. I remember. Not to seem like such a kid while I'm talking to you here, but I just had to mention that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you actually also worked as a scout for Net Scouts basketball. Can you talk a little bit about being a scout for that organization as well?
Yeah, so when I was in grad school, it was one of many things that I was doing to try to build up my resume for future basketball opportunities. I was able to get on with Net Scouts and scout some games at UCF and do some video scouting as well. It just helped me give me the experience to figure out kind of what scouts do, what's the best way to scout a player, format of writing out a report, of cutting some film, things like that. It was probably my first like formal. I've done scouting a little bit for my own, but it was kind of my first formal exposure to scouting within an organization, and it was super valuable as I continue to build my skills in that area.
What would you say like the most challenging part of that job was?
I think the most challenging thing was just continuing to figure out kind of exactly how I wanted to do it. Just because since it was like an online kind of agency that I was doing, like there's no one with me that I could sit down, talk with, and figure out kind of what are some important things to do when scouting, what are some important things to look at when you're watching a player pregame, during the game, postgame, things like that. And so for me, it was just kind of learning the process and figuring out what works best for me when trying to scout a player.
When scouting, I always ask my college coaches this, and I know it like varies a little bit depending on the coach or the scout or like the team they're looking at. But what tendencies of players would you really focus on while like writing up a report on them?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the biggest things for me when I'm looking at scouting a player are a lot of stuff is off the ball for me. It's really easy for kind of fans and people that watch the game to be pay attention to the ball and kind of see what a player does with the ball when they're either guarding it or have the ball in their hands. But it's the little things that don't get picked up in the box score, that this person has great IQ to be in this position defensively, so it discourages a drive or discourages a pass that could have been led to a 2-on-1 for the offense, or they made a cut that opened up a 3-point wide open 3-point shot in the corner. Things like that, where just the little things that are super subtle and don't show up in the box score, but it can show kind of the IQ of a player, is something I like to kind of keep my eyes out on.
A lot of the terms I hear my coaches use here at school are like, I don't know if you definitely heard of it, like a sacrificial curl, like when and like how fast like a player were to run off of that, or like how often he uses that. Because if he were to take that sack curl, then the guy jumping back to the ball has like an open shot, and he can go like play off of either like DHO, pick and roll. You
Yeah.
can just play off that in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So I can see where you're going with that on that note. In 2019, you returned to BYU to be the director of player personnel. This time around, what were your goals at BYU?
Yeah, so I mean the BYU story is super interesting. So like I graduated from UCF in my master's program in December 2018. Tried to kind of we were in a spot, me and my wife, that I could try to really see if I can land a basketball job coming out of grad school. So did that for tried to land something over those 8 months. Just nothing really came about. Went to summer league and all that. Just nothing was really hitting. The BYU job actually popped up that spring when they changed over staffs, but I wasn't in the interview process for that. And then it re-popped up back in the fall, which I thought was interesting. I didn't know why at the time. So I applied for that, and I had a connection with someone in the UCF athletic department. He was able to he worked with the new staff back at Utah Valley, so he's helped me to get a FaceTime interview, kind of with an assistant and some GAs, and so I did that interview like on a Friday, but I kind of knew a little bit in the back of my head like probably wasn't going to get the job just because my inexperience on my resume with the college game. I wasn't a manager. I didn't play. I wasn't a GA or anything like that, and I didn't have any like personal connections with anyone on the staff. And so I always heard of when I was networking and connecting with people of guys who would wait in the parking lot to catch someone coming out of the facility to put a resume in front of their face and things like that, and just kind of grind it out that way. And so that inspired me a little bit where, I mean, at the time, me and my wife, we just had our second kid. She wasn't working as much. I was still employed, so we didn't really have much. So we decided to, if I really wanted this to try to get it, like I just had to go all in on it. And so we scrapped what we had at the time, and I flew myself out that Sunday to BYU, and just kind of showed up in the facility Monday morning, kind of just hoping that they would let me in, let me continue to pitch myself. And luckily, an assistant came down. He was a little confused why I was there, a little annoyed that I just showed up out of the blue. But for me, like if I was going to be told no, I wanted to kind of in face instead of over the phone, over text something. And so they invited me to two-a-days they were doing at the time, so like 5 a.m. the next day. So came in, did that, talked to a lot of the people within the organization, and then eventually had a sit down with the head coach. And the head coach just told me after that, just keep texting me every day until we kind of make a decision on the spot. And so went back to Florida. I luckily finally got myself a full-time job in Vegas for like a sports selling job. And so luckily Vegas and Utah are pretty much in the same direction from
Mhm.
Florida. And so I kind of had a good feeling that I was going to get the BYU job, but you just never know in this industry. And so I remember the first day was driving the moving truck. I got the call from the assistant and the head coach, like, hey, this job's yours. We're gonna let you have give you kind of a 1 year trial basis, and just kind of see how it goes from there. And so just switched the destination from Vegas to Utah, and went there. And so when I got there, it was just all about kind of just learning as much as I can, just having a positive impact. Started off as the video coordinator, and then I started to get a lot into the analytics, which luckily the head coach was super wanted to hear a lot more about analytics and work with analytics. And so through my time there, I just was from video to video and analytics, and eventually progressed into in-game strategy on the bench. And then that final year had a lot more in NIL cap, transfer portal scouting, building out databases, kind of roster construction, building management, and everything like that. And so was a super fun 5 years for me at BYU. And being able to have a lot of success there, have a lot of great wins while we are there.
Wow, that's insane. A lot of people I've talked to really always tell us that like stories like that, our generation would never go to those lengths to get something done like that. Like you probably know a lot that like my generation is like that social media generation. Like everyone wants to be like an influencer, everyone wants to go viral and just like, like get it handed to you. Not very much people in our generation really get it out the mud like how you did in that story.
Yeah,
So I can tip my cap to you on that one. Like that's an
appreciate it.
amazing story right there, man. So when I was doing my research for this interview, I saw that you actually were in the sports business classroom program at NBA Summer League. I just did that program actually last summer. I thought it was phenomenal. So I would love to hear your experience with that program.
Yeah, I mean, my experience was a little unique. It was during COVID, during the lockdown and stuff, and so mine was a virtual. I've always wanted to do it in Vegas, and it just the timing never worked out. But once it was they were doing a virtual one during COVID, and we're kind of just obviously just kind of sitting around and stuff. Just thought it was a great opportunity to take advantage and go through that program, and it was awesome being able to hear from all of the speakers, learn a bunch of really detailed stuff about all the different aspects of the business of basketball. And it was awesome to be able to do a project with some really like-minded individuals. I think we did like a trade deadline, or
Hmm.
not trade deadline. It was an off season since we weren't in person. We couldn't do the trades and things like
Yeah.
that with other teams. So we did a off season signing free agents and contracts and stuff and putting it together. And it was a really fun experience being able to do that and get a little taste of kind of what kind of an off-season free agency period looks like in terms of trying to build out a team and getting a team ready for the next season.
What team did you get, if you mind me asking?
Yeah, we did the project for the Phoenix Suns, and so it was the year after they went to the finals and lost to the Bucks. So we're trying to figure out how to continue the momentum, and get back to the finals, and with some key signings and things like that.
Do you remember any of the moves that you guys made? I just like was really into hearing these presentations over the summer, so I
Yeah.
just love to hear like previous ones.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly the moves we have. I know that I have that PowerPoint somewhere on one of my hard drives, think like something like that, but it wasn't anything like super crazy or anything like that. But no, it was super fun, and we actually presented it. One of the judges was the former GM of the Suns, Ryan McDunn or something like that. I
Mhm.
forget his last name, but yeah, it was really cool to be able to kind of put that together, work with people, and then be able to present it was awesome.
He was probably like, "Man, I should actually make that move in real life." You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
So currently, you are the head video coordinator of the Wisconsin Herd. How are you able to get this position, and what has your experience been like so far?
Yeah, so basically kind of going back a couple months, like after we were able to have a lot of success at BYU and with some luck and timing from through the industry, my head coach got the Kentucky job. And I'm super proud of kind of the work I did and the contribution I did to be able to help him achieve kind of get that dream job for himself. And so, kind of what was communicated to me, and kind of what I was expecting was going to be carried over, and taken over to that staff. And so, over the last kind of past 7 months, things like that, I actually turned down some opportunities, just because one, obviously, it would have been awesome to work at Kentucky, obviously a blue blood in college basketball, and being able to go in there and take a swing at a national championship, go try to win one would have been awesome. And two, kind of my relationship was super strong with that head coach. And so I kind of felt I felt like I had to kind of honor that and kind of wait and see kind of how that all played out. And so turn down some opportunities throughout the spring and summer. And then in the fall, kind of got blindsided, kind of ghosted a little bit. And so and Kevin Young over at BYU. He brought his guy from the Suns for my position as when he was filling out his own staff, and so ended up kind of just in an unemployed situation, unfortunately. And so and it was kind of already too late in the cycle for anything. There really wasn't anything open up, and so for me, I was scrambling to get together kind of analytics consulting service that I could do real quick for some college teams, just kind of scrape by over the winter, kind of survive and just wait till the next hiring cycle when things opened up again. And then one of my friends in the industry, he reached out to me about this job, said it was open if I was interested. I said, of course. And then the next day, the GM of the herd already which I already had kind of known for 2 years now, connected with him at Summer League in Portsmouth over the years. He reached out and I made sure I was good on all the technical stuff and if I was really interested. I said I was. And then just a few days after that, the head coach, Beno Udrih, here at the Wisconsin Herd, he texted me asking if I wanted to hop on a phone call later that day. I said, yep. I was ready to kind of basically start the first round of interview, the whole interview process, having been through it many times before. So got on a call with him. We talked through the position, kind of what he was hoping for, expecting. And then at the end of the call, he said, like, I heard a lot of great things about you from people I trust. So the job is yours. If you want it, just let us know in the next kind of 24, 48 hours, which to this day is probably the most kind of shocking call I've had in my career so far, just how easy it came, especially from someone that I had never met before in my life. And so super grateful to Artie and Beno for the opportunity to be here with the Wisconsin Herd. And I think it just shows the power and how important kind of your network and your reputation is kind of in this industry. Like there's tons of qualified people in this industry who could do a lot of the work that everyone's doing in this industry. But more times than not, kind of what your network is and your reputation is gonna what makes the difference between you getting a job or not. And I was lucky enough to have a really strong reputation and good connections where I was able to be hired by someone that I had never met before and I had spoken to for the first time on a phone call. And he offered me the position within that same phone call. And so it's been really fun. It's been really different to switch from and adapt from a college schedule to a G League schedule. Like start the regular season after Showcase in Orlando. We're just finishing up a stretch where our first 11 games, 10 of them were on the road. So I've been on the road for a lot these last 3 weeks. So super excited to get home. But it's been really fun. I learned a ton in the G League so far, and excited to just continue to learn and grow and develop.
So as you know, we can't stay complacent where we are in our careers right now. We always want to strive for something more, always want to get better. So what are your future aspirations for your career going forward?
Yeah, I think when I finally decided, kind of I wanted to do basketball as a career, like the team building aspect of it was always what attracted me, and just because it was the intersection of everything that I thought was interesting between scouting, both video and intel, the film aspect, the analytics aspect, the salary cap, and finance aspect, and just having all those come together to be able to try to put together a team to win a championship has been super interesting to me. And so when I first started, the NBA front offices was the main goal to kind of get there and to even play just a small piece of putting together a championship roster. But now that college has rapidly evolved over the last 5 years with NIL and
Yep.
revenue sharing, and it's going to continue to evolve even faster these next couple of years. I'm also now open up to being a GM of a college program and trying to put together a roster to help win championships, things like that. And so for me, I think my biggest passions is just like the team building aspect, and trying to figure out the puzzle pieces that would fit perfectly together to go be successful on the court and try to win some championships.
Well, Coach Brown, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity today and coming on the show. And I wish you the best of luck going forward and the rest of your season as well, sir.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashton.
Thanks for listening to Gen Z Hoops. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe on Instagram, LinkedIn, and all major social media platforms at Gen Z Hoops. You can tune in and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and every other podcast platform on the planet. Get ready for the next episode.